This video is about how much a re-roof should cost in Sydney in 2026. If you're replacing your roof, it's a significant decision. One of the most expensive investments you'll make on your home. So you want to know exactly how much it costs and what factors to look out for. This video covers everything, as well as 5 red flags to look for at the end to make sure you're not going with a roofer who is a cowboy. Number one, this is obviously going to be the most important factor, the size of your roof. Okay, if you have a tiny little roof, it's going to cost a lot less than a big roof. Now, the way most roofers work is they'll have a material and they'll quote you based on a square meterage price, and then there'll be other extras like gutters, fascia, extrusions, flashings, all these other things. But the general gist is you have a square meterage price for the square meters in your home. Now, this isn't going to be a standard stock price. The reason being is on a small re-roof job, like 40 square meters or something like that, it's not going to be the same square meterage price as a roof that's 200. Obviously, the roof that is 200 meters squared is going to be cheaper, okay? And part of the reason is, even if a roof only takes half a day or a day, we need a provision for, at least 2 days to make sure that if anything goes wrong, we're going to be able to solve for it. Roofing is not the sort of industry where you can just start an install and just let it go for a couple of days or weeks. If you have a tarp over a roof and anything gets in, if there's any sort of storm or weather event, you are royally not in a good position. So you need to make sure that everything gets installed in a timely manner. If there are any delays or anything, that it's not going to mess with the job. And also for a smaller roof, let's say, even if it only takes half a day, you're still going to need to pay the guys for a full day. You know what I mean? So it's expensive. Roofing labor is one of the most expensive parts in this business, because a roofer will get paid between $100,000 to $200,000 a year on average. Okay, if you think about that, it's $400 to $800 a day, and you usually have roofing crews of 4 people. So if you're thinking that you're paying at least $1,600 to $3,200 per day just to keep a roofing crew going, not to mention other additional expenses that the business pays for. So we're talking trucks, training, tools, all these other things, super expensive. Okay, so that labor is one of the most important parts of how much a roofing job costs, and the square meterage of your home is one of the most important factors behind that. Second most important factor in your home is going to be the material that you are using. Okay, the material that you're using is going to be one of the most important parts. Now, there are different materials and they all cost a different amount. We are specialists in metal roofing and tile to metal conversions. So we typically deal with Colorbond roofing, and that can land anywhere from $150 to $300 per square. And that's going to be depending on the specific profile of Colorbond as well as the thickness of the material and stuff like that. So with Colorbond, you're looking at stuff like PS Fix, which is corrugated being the cheapest option out of everything. Corrugated trim deck. You're looking at concealed fix like clip lock, which is going to be a little bit more expensive, and then standing seam, which is usually 2 to 3 times the price of other metal roofing methods, just because it's so labor intensive. But it is also an architectural feature. It looks really, really nice, and it is going to last longer than any of the other profiles do. So that's metal roofing. Also, part of metal roofing, you'll have stuff like copper and zinc as well as stainless steel. That's super expensive. Those options, you're going to be looking at anywhere from $300 all the way to $1,000 per square for stuff like copper. So those are the more expensive profiles, which are more architectural. We can definitely help you out with those if you're looking for a quote for those, but those are the more expensive options, and they're not for the faint of heart. Options you might want to consider would be concrete tiles and terracotta tiles. Now, concrete tiles have a much lower lifespan than terracotta tiles. I'd always recommend going terracotta if you can. It's an investment in your home. It's going to last longer, and it's going to increase the value of your home as well. Concrete tiles typically have the most issues. They're the most brittle, and they fail more quickly than pretty much any other roofing material used here in Australia. And then finally, we'll have stuff like shingles. Also super expensive. You're looking to pay between $250 to $500 per square. One thing that you need to make sure that you get in any roofing quote that you get if you're getting a roof replacement, and that's provisioning for any sort of damage to your wooden structure. So if you're getting your roof replaced, there's a high chance that the reason for getting that done is because your roof's leaking. And if your roof is leaking, water's getting into your roof cavity. And what holds up the roof cavity? That is the wooden structure underneath. Typically wooden. You have trusses, rafters, purlins, battens. Those are subject to rotting to water ingress. And so in a lot of cases, when we open up a roof, we'll figure out we have to replace some or all of those battens. And you need to make sure that that is included on the quote, how that's going to be dealt with. So we have a provision for it. So usually we tell the customer, hey, we provision for X amount of dollars. Up to that, we completely cover anything. Any batten replacement, any purlin replacement, stuff like that. But beyond that amount, if there's significant damage, that is the customer's responsibility. So make sure that you're getting all those finer details worked out, because if you don't, you might think you're getting a cheaper quote, but it's just a quote which doesn't have the variations up front. So make sure you have that. Make sure if you're comparing quotes, okay, are they actually like for like? Does one quote include scaffolding and the other doesn't? There's one provision for batten replacement and the other doesn't. That's something you have to sort of bear. Now, one of the factors that people don't really consider is the slope of their roof and the safety requirements that will result as a result of that. So the slope of your roof, you'll get a homeowner who thinks their roof is like 100 square meters, but it's actually going to be 150 because the degree of the roof is almost 45 degrees. So in that case, you're actually looking at multiplying that roof area that you see on Google Maps to get the actual roof area of the tile. So that's one thing with slope. The other thing is, if you have a super sloped house or it's like double story or dangerous, you'll need to get scaffolding or edge protection. And scaffolding can be extremely expensive. It can run from $10,000 all the way up to $30,000, even more on like large jobs. So scaffolding is a big expense, which most homeowners don't really consider on a roof. And I would say, if you're getting someone like on your job who is quoting you like way cheaper because they're the only company that haven't provided scaffolding, do you really want that company who's happy to risk their life, if it is a very dangerous job, just to install your roof? Do you really want people falling off your roof? Probably not. And the people that don't take their safety seriously are the people who will take shortcuts with your roof, in my experience. Stuff like edge protection, you can be expecting to pay between $1,000 and $3,000. And edge protection is basically a guardrail system around your roof that's installed on the eaves, and that will cost anywhere from a couple $1,000 all the way up to $4,000, $5,000, depending on the size of the house, obviously, and the complexity of the install. Factor number 5 is roof complexity. Any extrusions in your roof, any skylights, any bathroom exhaust fans, any chimneys, these all need custom flashings built around them to make sure they don't leak at all. So that's going to add to the expenses as well. Factor number 6 is also something that homeowners don't really consider, and that is actually access. How easy is it for us to park our trucks at the property? How easy is it for us to dispose of tiles at the property? All these things like actually equate to labor hours and hassle. If it's more complex to do, we might also have to get strata approval or also council approval to park cars or block off a section of the street, all of which takes paperwork and time. So bear that in mind. It's part of the reason why houses in the city and stuff like that are more expensive than less urban areas. Factor number 7, this is one of the most important factors. Guys, if you're getting any quote in New South Wales, that is construction work done to your home in the trades, that requires anything over $20,000 requires home builders compensation fund insurance. And I would say any quote that you have that does not include this insurance, like check with the roofer, make sure it's there, or run the other way. A lot of roofers will not include this insurance because it's expensive. It's expensive. It runs between 1 to 5% of the total cost of the job, and roofers won't want to include that for that reason, but you need to be protected by it. The roofers that don't include this are the roofers that you have to worry about. Basically, what the insurance does is if the company that has installed your roof goes bankrupt and you have issues down the line, your warranty is still covered. You're still insured for that roof. So you want to make sure that you get that, because the roofers who don't include HBCF insurance are the exact roofers who you need to look out for. Now, this factor, asbestos, super important. If you have asbestos insulation or asbestos in your roof, that's going to add a huge amount to the cost of getting your roof done. If you think about it, you want to make sure that the crew doing it know how to deal with asbestos safely. You do not want any of these particles in your home after the roof is replaced. You don't want to be breathing these in. It's not good for the safety of you, your children, or your grandchildren. Next thing to consider is if you're in a high bushfire attack level zone, you're going to need extra work done to your roof to make sure it's completely fireproof. And in the highest bushfire attack levels, you're looking at almost double the price. So that can really add up as an expense as well. It's a lot more in-depth. It takes more time. You have to make sure that everything is done up to code. And finally, if you need to get council or strata approval, that process takes money and time. That's going to be an added expense as well. Those are all the factors of how much a roof should cost. Now, here's some red flags that you should look out for in any roofer that you get. And if one of these red flags appears, you should probably look the other way. So number one, if the quote is way too cheap. If it's way too cheap, they probably don't include variations, or they're a one-man band who aren't going to be installing your roof properly. So you want to make sure whoever is installing your roof isn't cutting any corners. They're doing all the flashings properly. They're putting in the right materials, the right screws. They're not using bad materials or using the wrong profile for the pitch. That's one of the most common things that we see. Number two, if the quote's not detailed about the variations and the exact sort of materials that are going to be used, such as the width of the material used and what sort of profile it is, you need to have that information. Otherwise, they're going to skimp out and use the cheapest materials. 3, if it's cash only job, guys, this is a significant construction project. It needs to be done properly. If it's not done properly, if they just pay by cash, how are you going to be covered? That one sort of just explains itself. Number 4, we talked about it before, but it's worth reiterating: home builders compensation fund insurance. You need to make sure this insurance is covered because it's legislation and it protects you. Finally, if your roofer didn't talk to you about what's going to happen with the solar panels that are on your roof, if you have solar panels on your roof and he hasn't talked about the process of getting them removed or reinstalled, if that's going to be the case, then that's a huge issue. That's pretty basic. That should be covered in the scope of the quote. Guys, that's the video. If you're looking to get your roof inspected and get a quote from us on getting that replaced, just click on the link below. We would love to help you out with a free quote. If you're based in Sydney, thanks so much for watching.